Managing Director of Paragon Trust Company and tax and private client practitioner, joins us to bring a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, Tony joins us. And every Tuesday, just about every Tuesday, we bring him on, talk about a number of different things. Not necessarily just money or things that have to do with that, but Tony digs deep and kind of comes up with all kinds of different things. Tony, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, and proud to be among you guys.
No, we appreciate that. So, diversity today, right?
Yeah, this is something that really, when you look at it, has a much greater impact on, just quote-unquote business. A little bit out of the book of Rod Serling. Picture, if you will, I'm going to draw two circles here, and I'm going to have Group A. In Group A, we've got 20 people who were very diverse as to their political beliefs and how they might feel about things. And in Group B, everybody believes in the same party. So, or with the same political ideologies. You're with me so far. And drop that down. I'm going to throw a little wrinkle in. In Group A, everybody in Group A happens to be a Caucasian male. I'm going to make this as acute as I can. And in Group B, everybody in Group B is all of, quote-unquote, a group that is not a Caucasian male, be it, a group of women, a group of people of color, a group of Asian people. And this doesn't have to do with race, but basically what I'm getting at is ask yourself something. Where is the diverse group? And the answer is really the diverse group is Group A because Group B is all the same. Now, when you look at that and the modern-day concept of diversity that you see in organizations and governments and in a lot of firms and wherever you happen to go, it's based upon the fact that Group B is the diverse group. Now, a typical diversity policy that you might see on someone's website, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically the gist of it, if you will, is strength and success comes from a inclusion of people from all different insights and experiences. I get that, but does that not violate the premise of which we just spoke about? So basically, I'm going to make this really clear. You have an emergency in your home, like last Friday with the storms, with the floods and everything, and somebody come and help me with this issue. You're not as much concerned about the makeup of the person as do they have the skill necessary in order to get you out of your mess. Where this starts to have, I believe, major implications is that, and you know, Lee, I'm a very strong believer in this, that anyone who goes out to start a business within the boundaries of the law should be able to do what they want to do without any sort of interference from government. Yeah, you shouldn't act outside the law. You shouldn't be dumping motor oil in your backyard or something like that. But basically what it comes down to is when state legislatures start to say, as far as this is what you must do, this is what you must have in order to do business in the state, we are on a very slippery slope. And you know me, and I know you got a ton of questions, but I often look at California and I think of Connecticut's next. Two things that are happening right now in California. There's something called Senate Bill 826, which was kicking around last year, and basically it says that if you have a public corporation in California, 2 of your board members must be women. Now, that's a laudable goal. I'm not opposed to that, but my question is, just about everybody working has, some sort of like a 401k plan or something like that. And if you were to ask them, if your stock price were to go down in those corporations making up that plan or the equities that are there, but you've got women on that board just because, how do you feel about that? I'm sure you're going to get a lot of Ralph Cramden hummina. And the other thing that they're looking at over there is something else called AB 624 California, which forces a private foundation to report the racial makeup of their board. That's great. What does that have to do with anything, as far as the price of bagels and gasoline? But I'm starting to get a little bit more sensitive to this because one of the things I am watching in this political discourse of which, we're all watching as to what happens is when, for example, AOC was on the other day talking about we can't have single-family homes anymore. Well, if you choose to live in an apartment, you choose to live in a single-family home, that should be up to you. But the problem is single-family homes cause autonomy and responsibility for your property if you're really serious about owning a home. And government gets a little bit upset about that because they can't get their little hands in there and tell you what to do. Your ball.
Well, I'm listening to all that, and all of it seems right on the money, and I wanted to ask you, so you think we're headed towards a day, I mean, we're on our way there, but in every facet where there is going to be mandated numerical numbers of people that you need to hire, if you're a boss, you have 100 employees, you're going to have, because there's a 14% folks who are of color in the world, then you have to have 14 black people working for you. You have to have 6 Hispanics working for you. You have to have 2 Asians working for you. And if you don't do that, you're going to be fined by the government. You see that happening?
I do, and it's a question of degrees. In other words, it's the frog in the water. And if you put the frog in the water, you turn it up a little bit, the frog's comfortable, but you start turning it up and turning it up and turning it up, and pretty soon the frog is cooked to death. I believe we can be that way, because the thing that really burned me, and you know, by and large, I'm a political agnostic. I'm like, just stay the heck out of the way so I could do what I need to do.
Right.
That's my view of politics. But when Barack Obama came out and said, you didn't build that, it's like, you know, you did? You know, I mean, what did you do to help me? You know, so it's the kind of thing that you do have this prevailing thought that, yeah, you know, we know better than you and we want to do it better for you because you don't really matter. You know, you're just there. You know, we just want your vote, and that's about it.
Well, it's the idea of legislating morality. Now, is it the right thing to do to hire all white people because you don't like black people? Of course not. That's a horrible thing and a horrible way to live. But to tell somebody that you have to hire a transgender because you happen to have 1,000 employees and 1% of the population is transgender, that seems a little bit insane to me.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's if you want to look at sports statistics, a lot of the baseball players today are of Hispanic origin. 68% of the NFL is people that are of color. Now, do we, someone who is a Patriots fan, it's like, well, do we want a better racial balance? No, we want to win the game.
Exactly.
And, you know, my staff is all women, and it's 50% people of color. And believe me, I wouldn't trade them for anything. I want to do what's best to do. You know, the best 9 people should play.
Exactly. I couldn't, like, do you want to work with people because you don't want to be forced, your hand doesn't want to be forced. Maybe you're not. You know, maybe that person isn't as skilled in an area, whether they be black, white, or Hispanic or Asian. It doesn't matter. You want to bring the best person on. It's the same idea. If I flipped it around and said, "Well, okay, hold on a second. If that's the case, then 65% of the NBA has to be white." I mean, who wants? The best players aren't white. I'm sorry.
And I'm just going to toss this into, quote-unquote, the political business mix. Michael Bloomberg, there's something in the 2017 tax code called an opportunity zone, which is if you invest in a certain disadvantaged communities, Connecticut's got, I think, 67 or 68, there is very favorable tax treatment if you stay with your investment. Michael Bloomberg wants to treat that as, in order to get this thing to work, you've got to hire so many people who are in this area. Well, that's great, but what if you don't have the horses, Michael? You know, and that's where it starts to get. And we have very few opportunity zones, very people taking it up in Connecticut for a number of reasons. But, you know, if you have something like that, it's anything that goes out there that could be potentially good starts to be sort of used as a political cudgel, and that's the part I do not like.
Tony, good stuff. Thank you, man.
My pleasure.
All right, pal. I'll talk to you next week. Tony D'Angelo, there you go. You can find out all about him by just, logging on. He's got the Paragon, the whole 9 yards. We talk about his website and his company. He's a good guy, and we appreciate him being part of the show. So.